The conference room fell silent as Tyler Brooks stood up, his cocky smirk widening. Let's call this what it is. The UFC needs their diversity hire to have a moment before I send him back to whatever street corner he came from. But what the racist bully failed to recognize was the coiled fury behind those steady, dark eyes. 12 years of dedication, skill, and quiet rage waiting for exactly this moment. Tyler's confident laughter echoed through the room as cameras captured his every word, completely unaware he had just signed his own death warrant. He didn't expect what happened next. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The Nevada Athletic Commission conference room buzzed with anticipation as reporters adjusted their cameras and microphones. Damon Carter sat at the long table, his posture relaxed but alert, dark eyes scanning the crowd with quiet confidence. Across from him, Tyler Brooks leaned back in his chair, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth as he nodded at photographers. "Gentlemen, thank you for coming," announced the UFC representative. "We're here to officially announce the main event for UFC 297. Damon Carter versus Tyler Brooks for the #1 contender spot in the light heavyweight division." Damon straightened slightly, his hands folded on the table. He'd worked 12 years for this moment, grinding through small-town gyms and underground fights to reach this stage. Every scar, every early morning, every sacrifice had led here. "Damon, how does it feel to finally get your shot at the big time?" asked a reporter from ESPN. "It feels like everything I've worked for is coming together," Damon replied, his voice steady. "I've always believed that hard work and respect for the sport would get me here. Now I get to prove it." Tyler laughed, a harsh sound that cut through the room. "Respect for the sport? Come on, Damon. Let's be honest about what this really is." The room fell silent. Damon's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "What do you mean by that, Tyler?" pressed another reporter. Tyler's smirk widened. "I mean, let's call this what it is. The UFC needs their diversity hire to have a moment before I send him back to whatever street corner he came from. This isn't about skill, it's about checking boxes." A collective intake of breath rippled through the room. Cameras clicked rapidly as reporters exchanged glances. Damon's hands remained steady on the table, but his knuckles had gone pale. "That's completely inappropriate," started the UFC representative, but Tyler wasn't finished. "Inappropriate? It's the truth. Look at him sitting there all quiet and polite. That's not fighting spirit. That's knowing your place." Tyler stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. "But don't worry, Damon. I'll make sure you remember exactly where you belong." Damon rose slowly, his movements controlled and deliberate. At 6'2", he matched Tyler's height, but there was something in his bearing that made the room feel smaller. "Is that supposed to intimidate me?" "Just stating facts." Tyler stepped around the table, moving closer to Damon. "You might have fooled these reporters with your humble act, but I see right through it. When we get in that cage, all that fake respect disappears, and we'll see what you're really made of." "I don't need to fake anything," Damon said, his voice carrying a quiet intensity that made several reporters lean forward. "My record speaks for itself. 19 wins, 2 losses, 14 finishes. But you already knew that." Tyler stopped just inches from Damon's face, close enough that Damon could smell the coffee on his breath. "Records don't mean anything when you're face down on canvas, wondering why you thought you belonged in there with a real fighter." Damon didn't step back. If anything, he seemed to grow calmer, his breathing steady and deep. "You're going to regret this conversation, Tyler. Maybe not today, but soon enough. Is that a threat?" "It's a promise." The UFC representative quickly moved between them. "Gentlemen, let's keep this professional. We have a great fight ahead of us, and that's what the fans want to hear about." Tyler finally stepped back, but his eyes never left Damon's face. "Oh, they'll get a great fight. They'll get to watch me show everyone what happens when wannabes try to play with the big boys." A reporter from Sports Illustrated raised her hand. "Tyler, don't you think your comments were out of line?" "Out of line? I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. This whole thing is a setup to make Damon look good before reality hits him." Tyler returned to his seat, still grinning. "But hey, I'm happy to be the one who brings him back down to earth." Damon sat down as well, his expression unreadable. The room remained tense, the easy atmosphere from moments before completely evaporated. "Damon, any response to Tyler's comments?" asked another reporter. Damon looked directly at Tyler, then back at the reporter. "My response will come on fight night. That's where it matters." "That's February 15th at the MGM Grand," announced the UFC representative, clearly eager to end the conference. "Thank you all for coming." As the reporters began filing out, Tyler stood and walked past Damon's chair. "See you soon, champ," he said, his voice low enough that only Damon could hear. "Hope you're ready for what's coming." Damon watched him leave, his jaw set with quiet determination. The real fight had already begun. 3 days after the press conference, Damon wrapped his hands in the familiar quiet of Riley's gym. The old building smelled of sweat and determination, a sanctuary where politics and cameras couldn't reach. Coach Riley watched from the corner, his weathered face creased with concern. "You've been hitting that bag like it owes you money," Riley said, adjusting his worn baseball cap. "What's eating at you?" Damon paused mid-combination, his breathing heavy. "Did you see the interviews yesterday?" 3 different reporters asked Tyler about his comments, and every time they let him slide, "Heated emotions before a big fight," they said. Like what he said was just trash talk. "And that surprises you?" Riley moved closer, his voice carrying decades of wisdom. "The fight game's always been about selling tickets first, justice second. You know that. It shouldn't be that way." Damon unwrapped his hands, the tape damp with sweat. "Sarah saw the press conference online. You know what she asked me? She asked if I was going to be safe." Riley's expression softened. "What did you tell her?" "That I'd handle it in the ring." "But coach, what if beating him isn't enough? What if he just keeps running his mouth and everyone keeps pretending it's normal? Then you beat him so badly that even the people making excuses for him have to admit the truth." Riley picked up focus mitts from the equipment rack. "But right now, all that anger is making you sloppy. Show me your jab-cross combination. Clean and controlled." Meanwhile, across town at Jackson's MMA Academy, Tyler basked in the attention of a small crowd of reporters and training partners. His team had set up the interview in the main training area, with fighters working out in the background to create the perfect atmosphere. "Tyler, some people are calling your comments at the press conference controversial," said a reporter from MMA Weekly. "Any regrets?" Tyler grinned as he shadowboxed for the cameras. "Regrets? For speaking the truth? Look around this gym. You see guys from every background here, and they'll all tell you the same thing. Respect is earned, not given. Damon Carter hasn't earned anything yet." His training partner, a thick-necked heavyweight named Rick, laughed from the bench press. "Tyler's just keeping it real. Some of these guys get one good streak and think they deserve everything handed to them. But don't you think there's a way to express that without the personal attacks?" the reporter pressed. Tyler stopped shadowboxing, his expression hardening. "Personal attacks? I'm talking about fighting ability. If Damon wants to prove me wrong, he knows where to find me. February 15th, MGM Grand. Until then, everything else is just noise." Another reporter raised her hand. "Social media has been pretty critical of your comments. Does that affect your preparation?" "Social media," Tyler scoffed. "Half those people have never been in a real fight in their lives." They don't understand what it takes to step into that cage. They want everything to be politically correct and sanitized. But fighting isn't a dinner party. It's about who's stronger, who's tougher, who belongs at the top. Back at Riley's gym, Damon worked through his ground game with his longtime training partner, Mike. The sound of their grappling echoed off the walls as they rolled across the mats. "You see Tyler's latest interview?" Mike asked during a water break. "Dude's doubling down on everything." Damon's jaw tightened. "What did he say now?" "Same garbage, different day. Talking about how social media doesn't understand real fighting, how he's just being honest about skill levels." Mike shook his head. "Honestly, man, it's getting harder to watch. The way he talks about you, it's like he thinks you don't belong in the same sport." "That's exactly what he thinks." Damon stood up, pacing near the edge of the mat. "And the worst part is how everyone's letting him get away with it. You know what the reporter called it? Competitive spirit." Coach Riley approached, holding a phone. "Speaking of reporters, Sarah's been trying to reach you. Says it's important." Damon took the phone, stepping away from the group. "Hey, baby. Everything okay?" Sarah's voice carried a tension he rarely heard. "Damon, I've been getting messages all day. People sending me links to Tyler's interviews, asking if I'm worried about you fighting him. Some of them aren't even about the fight anymore. They're asking if you feel safe, if you think he might try something outside the ring. Sarah, you know I can handle myself. It's not about handling yourself. It's about how far this guy might go. The way he talks about you, Damon, it's not normal competitor trash talk. There's something uglier underneath it." Damon looked across the gym at Coach Riley, who was pretending not to listen but clearly concerned. "I know, but walking away isn't an option. This fight is everything I've worked for. I'm not asking you to walk away. I'm asking you to be careful. Promise me you'll be careful." "I promise. I love you. I love you too. Just remember, winning isn't worth getting hurt over someone else's hatred." As Damon hung up, he realized the truth in her words. This had stopped being just about fighting. The MGM Grand's athlete entrance buzzed with controlled chaos as fighters, trainers, and media personnel moved through the corridors. Damon walked alongside Coach Riley toward the media room, his mind focused on the final press obligations before tomorrow's fight. "Remember, keep it simple," Riley advised. "Answer their questions, stay professional, and get out of there. No need to give them extra material." "I know, Coach. Just ready to get this over with and focus on the fight." As they rounded the corner near the elevator bank, Damon nearly collided with Tyler and his entourage coming from the opposite direction. The hallway suddenly felt smaller as both groups stopped, the tension immediate and palpable. "Well, well," Tyler said, his voice carrying that familiar mocking tone. "Look who's trying to sneak around backstage. Nervous about tomorrow, Damon?" Damon kept walking. "Just taking care of business, Tyler. You should try it sometime." Tyler stepped sideways, partially blocking the path. "Business? That's funny. I was just telling my team about your business. How exactly does someone with your background end up getting handed a title shot?" Coach Riley placed a hand on Damon's arm, sensing the shift in atmosphere. "Let's just keep moving." No, let him answer," Tyler continued, his voice getting louder. "I'm genuinely curious. Did you have to audition for this, or did they just need to fill a quota?" Damon stopped walking, his jaw tightening. "What did you just say?" Tyler's smirk widened as his training partners moved closer behind him. "Come on. Don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about. The UFC's been looking for their next great hope from your people. Lucky for you, the bar isn't set very high." "My people?" Damon's voice dropped to a dangerous quiet. "You know exactly what I mean. They parade you around like you're some kind of champion, but we all know this is just about optics. Tomorrow night, reality sets in, and you go back to wherever they found you." Coach Riley stepped forward. "That's enough, Tyler. You want to settle this? Do it in the cage." Tyler ignored Riley completely, his focus locked on Damon. "The funny thing is, you actually believe you deserve this. Walking around here like you belong in the same conversation as real fighters. It's almost sad." "Real fighters?" Damon's hands clenched at his sides. "What makes you more real than me?" "Everything," Tyler shot back. "My training, my background, my understanding of what this sport is supposed to be about. You're just a street fighter who got lucky a few times. Tomorrow, I'm going to remind everyone what a real athlete looks like." One of Tyler's teammates, a burly heavyweight named Rick, laughed. "Tyler's just keeping it honest. Some guys earn their way up. Others get fast-tracked for the wrong reasons." Damon took a step forward, but Coach Riley's grip tightened on his arm. "Don't let him bait you. This is exactly what he wants." "Listen to your trainer," Tyler said, his voice dripping with condescension. "He's trying to keep you out of trouble. Smart man. He knows you can't handle what's coming tomorrow, so he might as well protect you now while he still can. You think I can't handle you?" Damon's voice carried a quiet intensity that made several people in the hallway stop and take notice. "I think you're about to find out exactly what happens when affirmative action meets real competition." Tyler stepped closer, close enough that Damon could see the hatred in his eyes. "I'm going to embarrass you so badly that they'll think twice before handing out charity fights to your kind again." The hallway fell completely silent. Even Tyler's teammates seemed uncomfortable with how far he'd pushed things. Damon looked Tyler directly in the eyes, his voice steady despite the fury building inside him. "Tomorrow night, you're going to regret every word you just said. Is that a threat? It's a promise. And when I'm done with you, everyone's going to know exactly what kind of person you really are." Tyler laughed, but there was something forced about it now. Tough talk from someone who's never faced real adversity. "Tomorrow, you find out what it's like to fight someone who won't just roll over for you. We'll see about that." Damon's voice remained calm, but everyone in the hallway could feel the change in him. The respectful, professional fighter from the original press conference was gone, replaced by someone who'd been pushed too far. Tyler seemed to sense he'd crossed a line, but his pride wouldn't let him back down. "Just remember, when you're lying on that canvas tomorrow night, that I warned you. I told you what would happen when you tried to play in the big leagues. The only thing I'll remember is the look on your face when you realize you picked the wrong person to disrespect." Coach Riley finally managed to guide Damon toward the elevator. "Come on, we've got what we came for." As they walked away, Tyler called after them. "See you tomorrow night, champ. Hope you're ready for what's coming." In the elevator, Riley shook his head. "That boy's got serious problems. What he said back there—" "I know what he said." Damon's voice was quiet, controlled, but Coach Riley could hear the steel underneath. "And tomorrow night, I'm going to make sure he knows exactly what those words cost him." The elevator doors closed, leaving Tyler and his team in the hallway, the weight of what had just happened beginning to settle over them. The MGM Grand Garden Arena erupted as both fighters entered the octagon. 20,000 fans were on their feet, the energy electric with anticipation. Damon moved with fluid precision during his warm-up, his face a mask of focused calm. Across the cage, Tyler bounced on his toes, flexing for the cameras and cupping his ear to the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening," announced Bruce Buffer. 5 rounds for the #1 contender position in the UFC light heavyweight division. The referee called both fighters to the center of the octagon for final instructions. Tyler immediately started talking, his mouth moving constantly as the referee explained the rules. "Keep it clean, gentlemen. Protect yourself at all times. Touch gloves if you want to." Tyler extended his gloves mockingly. "Ready to go home, Damon?" Damon ignored the gloves completely, staring directly into Tyler's eyes. "Let's find out." The bell rang. Tyler came out aggressive, throwing wild combinations before turning to the crowd with his arms raised. "This is how it's done," he shouted, leaving himself open. Damon capitalized immediately, landing a sharp jab that snapped Tyler's head back. The crowd roared, but Tyler shook it off and grinned. "Lucky shot. That all you got, street fighter?" "Stay calm," Damon thought to himself. "Let him make mistakes." Tyler continued his antics, doing a little dance after missing a wild hook, then pointing at Damon dismissively. "You're nothing special. Just another guy who got handed an opportunity." The first round continued with Tyler constantly playing to the crowd between his attacks. After landing a decent combination, he beat his chest and shouted, "That's how a real fighter does it." But Damon was picking him apart systematically. "He's getting tired from all that showboating," Damon noted, watching Tyler's breathing become labored. Round 2 began with Tyler more desperate but equally disrespectful. He threw a spinning kick that missed completely, then laughed and shrugged at the crowd as if it was intentional. "You think you're winning?" Tyler taunted, wiping blood from his nose. "I'm just getting started." After eating a hard body shot, Tyler grabbed Damon in a clinch and whispered loud enough for the microphones to pick up. "Your wife's watching this. Hope she's ready to see you get embarrassed." Damon's composure cracked slightly. "What did you say?" "You heard me. After I'm done with you, maybe I'll show her what a real man looks like." "Don't let him get in your head," Damon told himself. But the fury was building. He exploded with a series of devastating combinations that had Tyler covering up against the cage. Round 3 saw Tyler getting more reckless with his showboating. After getting dropped by a clean right hand, he popped back up and flexed his biceps to the crowd, pretending the knockdown didn't happen. "You hit like my little sister. No wonder they had to give you easy fights to get here." Tyler did a mock bow to the audience, his back turned to Damon for several seconds. He's completely lost focus, Damon realized. Time to end this. Round 4 opened with Tyler barely able to stand, but his arrogance remained intact. He stumbled backward, then raised his arms as if he was winning, drawing boos from the crowd. "You're still nothing. Even when you win, you'll still be nothing." Damon had heard enough. He shot for a takedown, driving Tyler to the ground with authority. Tyler tried to scramble, but Damon's grappling was superior. He transitioned smoothly to Tyler's back, sinking his hooks in deep. "No, no, no!" Tyler panicked as Damon's arms snaked around his neck. "This is for every racist comment, every insult, every moment you tried to make me feel less than," Damon thought, as he locked in the rear naked choke. Tyler's hands clawed desperately at Damon's forearm, his face turning red as the choke tightened. The crowd was on its feet, sensing the end. "Tap! Tap!" Tyler's corner screamed, but Tyler's pride wouldn't let him. His struggles became weaker, his breathing more labored. Finally, with his vision starting to fade, Tyler's hand slapped frantically against Damon's leg. "Tap! Tap! Tap!" Tyler gasped. The referee immediately stopped the fight as Damon released the choke. Tyler rolled away, coughing and gasping for air, his face a mask of humiliation and rage. Damon stood up slowly, his emotions finally breaking through. The crowd erupted in appreciation for the dominant performance they'd just witnessed. Coach Riley climbed into the octagon, grabbing Damon in a bear hug. "That's how you answer a bully, son. That's how you shut them up." "I told him he'd regret those words," Damon replied, his voice filled with satisfaction and relief. The official announcement echoed through the arena. "Winner by submission, rear naked choke, Damon Carter." Damon raised his arms in victory, acknowledging each section of the crowd. Months of disrespect, racist comments, and personal attacks had been answered in the most definitive way possible. Justice, he thought. Finally. justice. But across the octagon, Tyler was getting to his feet, his team trying to console him. The humiliation was complete, but as his head cleared, the embarrassment was transforming into something much darker. This isn't over, Tyler thought, watching Damon celebrate. This is just the beginning. As Damon continued his victory celebration, completely unaware of the hatred burning in Tyler's eyes, the real conflict was just beginning to take shape. The octagon interview began immediately, with the announcer approaching Damon in the center of the cage. The crowd's energy was still electric from the dominant performance they'd just witnessed. Damon, that was an incredible submission victory. How does it feel to prove your doubters wrong in such decisive fashion? Damon took the microphone, still catching his breath but smiling broadly. It feels amazing. All the talk, all the disrespect, all those ugly comments about who I am and where I come from, that's how you answer ignorance. With skill, with preparation, and with heart. The crowd roared their approval as Damon continued. I want to thank my team, my wife, and everyone who believed in me when others tried to tear me down with their hatred. Tyler had some very controversial comments leading up to this fight. What's your message to him and anyone else who thinks like him? Damon looked directly at the camera, his voice carrying conviction. My message is simple. Your prejudice doesn't make you stronger. It makes you weak. Your hatred doesn't give you power. It blinds you to reality. And tonight, reality just choked you unconscious. The crowd exploded with cheers and applause, but across the octagon, Tyler had heard every word. His face, already flushed from the chokeout, turned crimson with rage. What did you just say? Tyler shouted, pushing past his corner team. Damon turned, still holding the microphone. I said the truth. Something you wouldn't recognize. You think you proved something tonight? Tyler's voice cracked with fury as he started moving toward the center of the octagon. You think beating me changes anything? The announcer quickly stepped back as tension filled the cage. Tyler, the fight's over, man. You need to— Shut up, Tyler screamed, his composure completely gone. This doesn't prove anything. One fight doesn't make you my equal. Damon set down the microphone, his celebration mood shifting to alertness. I just dominated you for 4 rounds and choked you unconscious. What more proof do you need? Dominated? Tyler's voice rose to near hysteria. By someone like you? This was just one night. This doesn't change who you really are. Someone like me? Damon's voice dropped dangerously low. There it is again. Say what you really mean, Tyler. Tyler's mask finally slipped completely. Fine. You want the truth. You don't belong in here with real fighters. You never did. This whole thing was just a setup. The crowd's boos were deafening, but Tyler wasn't finished. I don't care what happened tonight. You're still nothing but a— Before Tyler could finish the slur, Damon lunged forward. Say it. Say what you really think. Tyler swung wildly, catching Damon on the shoulder. Both men crashed to the canvas as the crowd erupted in shocked chaos. Get off me, Tyler screamed, throwing desperate punches. You want to keep running your mouth? Damon grabbed Tyler's wrist, controlling his arms. Let's finish this conversation. Within seconds, both corner teams flooded into the octagon. Coach Riley reached Damon first, trying to pull him away. Damon, stop! It's over! But Tyler's team was pulling him in the opposite direction, and he broke free from their grip. This isn't over. You hear me? This isn't over. Tyler charged again, swinging wildly. Rick, his heavyweight training partner, tried to restrain him, but Tyler shoved him away. Let me go. He disrespected me. More security poured into the octagon as the scuffle expanded. Tyler's other teammates joined the fray, trying to protect their fighter, while Damon's corner formed a protective circle around him. You embarrassed me, Tyler screamed over the chaos. In front of everyone! You made me look like a fool! You made yourself look like a fool! Damon shouted back, trying to break free from Coach Riley's hold. With your mouth and your attitude! It took 8 security guards to finally create separation between the two fighters. Tyler continued thrashing against the guards holding him, his face contorted with rage and humiliation. This isn't finished! Tyler's voice carried across the entire arena, despite the mayhem. You think winning one fight changes anything? You think it makes you better than me? As security began escorting Tyler toward the cage exit, he broke free one more time, pointing directly at Damon with pure hatred in his eyes. You better watch your back, Damon. You better watch your back real careful. I know where you train. I know where you live. This isn't over. The threat hung in the air as Tyler was finally dragged from the octagon, his voice echoing through the arena. You'll see me again. Count on it. Damon stood in the center of the chaos, surrounded by his team and security, the reality of Tyler's words beginning to sink in. What should have been the proudest moment of his career had turned into something much darker. Coach, Damon said quietly, did you hear what he just said? Riley's expression was grim. I heard it, son. We all heard it. 3 days after the fight, Tyler sat in a dimly lit bar on the outskirts of Las Vegas, nursing his 3rd beer and replaying the humiliation over and over in his mind. His face still showed the bruises from the chokeout, a constant reminder of what had happened in front of 20,000 people. I can't believe he said that garbage about hatred and prejudice, Tyler muttered to Rick, who sat across from him at the sticky wooden table. Acting all high and mighty like he's some kind of hero. Rick nodded, his thick arms folded across his chest. That interview was disrespectful, man. He basically called you a racist on national television. Because that's what he thinks this is about. Everything's about race with these people. Tyler's voice grew louder, drawing looks from other patrons. He can't just accept that he got lucky one time. So what are you going to do about it? Asked Danny, another training partner who'd joined them. You can't just let him get away with embarrassing you like that. Tyler's eyes lit up with a dangerous gleam. Who says I'm letting him get away with anything? I told him this wasn't over, and I meant it. What's that supposed to mean? Rick leaned forward, lowering his voice. It means Damon Carter needs to learn some respect. Real respect. Not the fake kind he gets from reporters and fans. Tyler finished his beer and slammed the bottle down. I know where he trains. I know his routine. Guy's so cocky now, he probably thinks he's untouchable. Danny shifted uncomfortably. Tyler, you're not talking about doing something stupid, are you? The fight's over, man. The fight in the octagon is over. But this isn't about fighting anymore. This is about teaching someone their place. Tyler's voice carried a cold edge that made both men uneasy. You guys still with me? Or are you going to let me handle this alone? Rick and Danny exchanged glances. Neither wanted to abandon their friend, but both sensed they were being pulled into something dangerous. What exactly are you planning? Rick asked carefully. Nothing too crazy. Just a conversation. A private conversation where Mr. Champion learns what happens when you disrespect the wrong person. Tyler stood up, throwing money on the table. You coming or not? Meanwhile, across town at his home, Damon was trying to enjoy a quiet evening with Sarah. The victory celebration had been everything he'd dreamed of, but Tyler's threats kept echoing in his mind. You've been checking the windows every 10 minutes, Sarah observed from the couch, where she was reading. What's got you so worried? Just being careful. Tyler said some things after the fight that didn't sound like empty threats. Sarah set down her book, concern creasing her features. What kind of things? He said he knew where I lived, where I trained. Said I should watch my back. Damon moved away from the window, trying to appear calm. Probably just angry talk. But after everything he said leading up to the fight, maybe we should call the police, make a report. And tell them what? That a guy I just beat up is mad about it? They'll laugh us out of the station. Damon sat beside her, taking her hand. I'm probably overreacting. Guy just got embarrassed on television. He'll cool off in a few days. But even as he said it, Damon didn't believe his own words. There had been something in Tyler's eyes during that post-fight chaos, something that went beyond normal competitive anger. Back at the bar, Tyler was finalizing his plan with Rick and Danny. Here's what we're going to do. I've been watching his routine. Every Tuesday and Thursday, he goes to that little gym on the east side for evening training. Leaves around 9, drives home the same route every time. Tyler, this sounds like you're talking about jumping the guy, Danny said nervously. That's not just a conversation anymore. I'm talking about making sure he understands that what happened in the octagon was a fluke. That in the real world, things work differently. Tyler's voice was calm now, which somehow made it more frightening. Look, I'm not going to seriously hurt the guy. Just rough him up a little. Show him he's not as tough as he thinks he is outside of his controlled environment. Rick was still hesitant. What if someone sees us? What if he calls the cops? He won't call the cops. Guys like him, they have too much pride. And even if he does, it's his word against ours. Who are they going to believe? Tyler grinned, but there was no humor in it. Besides, after tonight, he'll be too worried about when we might show up again to cause any trouble. The three men left the bar together. Tyler's plan set in motion. What had started as wounded pride was evolving into something much more dangerous. Thursday evening arrived with Damon finishing his training session at Riley's gym. The familiar routine of pad work and sparring had helped clear his mind, but as he gathered his gear, the nagging worry about Tyler's threats crept back in. You heading straight home tonight? Coach Riley asked, toweling off sweat from their session. Yeah, Sarah's making dinner. Why? Riley hesitated, then spoke carefully. Just been thinking about what that boy said after the fight. Maybe you should switch up your routine for a while. Take different routes home. Train at different times. Damon slung his gym bag over his shoulder. Coach, I can't live my life looking over my shoulder because some sore loser made threats. If I start changing everything I do because of Tyler Brooks, then he wins. Sometimes the smart play is to avoid a fight altogether. And sometimes running from a bully just makes them bolder. Damon headed toward the exit. I'll be fine. See you Saturday. As Damon walked toward his car in the gym's small parking lot, he didn't notice the dark SUV parked across the street. Inside, Tyler sat in the passenger seat with Rick behind the wheel and Danny in the back. There he is, Tyler said, his voice tight with anticipation. Right on schedule, just like I said. Damon started his car and pulled out of the parking lot, taking his usual route toward home through the quieter residential streets. The SUV followed at a distance, maintaining just enough space to avoid detection. You sure about this? Danny asked from the back seat, his nervous energy filling the vehicle. What if he fights back? Guy just choked you out 3 days ago. That was in his element, with rules and referees, Tyler replied, his eyes never leaving Damon's taillights ahead. This is different. This is reality. Rick glanced in the rearview mirror. What's the plan exactly? We just pull him over and have a conversation? We corner him somewhere private, teach him some humility, show him that winning one fight doesn't make him untouchable. Tyler's hands clenched into fists. He embarrassed me in front of the whole world. Time for him to understand what that feels like. A few cars ahead, Damon noticed the same headlights that had been behind him for several blocks. His training in situational awareness, drilled into him by years of competition, made him naturally observant. He took an unexpected right turn onto a side street to test his suspicions. The SUV followed. He's turning, Rick observed, maintaining distance. Stay with him, Tyler ordered. Don't get too close. Damon's heart rate picked up as he confirmed what he'd feared. He was being followed. He pulled out his phone to call Sarah, then stopped. What would he tell her? That he thought someone was following him? She'd insist he call the police, and he still wasn't sure this wasn't just paranoia. He took another turn, this time onto a more isolated street lined with warehouses and closed businesses. If someone was really following him, this would force their hand. He's heading into the industrial area, Rick noted, slowing down as they entered the darker, less populated section of town. Perfect, Tyler said, his voice carrying a dangerous satisfaction. Pull up next to him at the next light. Damon approached a red light and stopped, glancing nervously in his mirrors. The SUV that had been following him pulled up alongside, and through the tinted windows he could make out multiple figures. The passenger window rolled down, revealing Tyler's face, twisted with anger and malicious intent. "Get out of the car, Damon!" Tyler called across the space between vehicles. "We need to talk." Damon's training kicked in immediately. Multiple attackers, isolated location, no witnesses. This was a tactical nightmare. "I don't think so, Tyler. You want to talk? We can do it somewhere public." "I'm not asking." Tyler's voice hardened. "You embarrassed me in front of everyone. Now it's time to return the favor." The light turned green, and Damon floored the accelerator, his car shooting forward into the intersection. Behind him, he heard tires squealing as the SUV gave chase. "He's running!" Danny shouted from the back seat. "Then we chase him down," Tyler replied coldly. "He can't run forever." Damon's hands gripped the steering wheel as he navigated the narrow streets, his mind racing through options. He could try to lose them in traffic, but this area was too deserted. He could drive to a police station, but he wasn't sure where the nearest one was. His phone was in his gym bag in the back seat, too far to reach while driving. The SUV was gaining on him, its more powerful engine closing the distance between them. Damon realized with growing dread that this chase would end soon, and when it did, he'd be facing 3 men with nothing but his fists and whatever weapons they might have brought. Damon's car careened through the industrial district as he desperately searched for an escape route. The SUV stayed close behind, its headlights flooding his mirrors with harsh light. Every turn he took, they matched. Every attempt to gain distance failed as their superior engine power kept them in pursuit. Come on," Damon muttered, scanning the darkened streets for any sign of other people or businesses that might still be open. Behind him, Tyler leaned forward in the passenger seat, his excitement building as they closed in. He's slowing down, running out of road. Rick gripped the steering wheel tighter as they navigated a sharp turn. "What happens when we catch him?" "We have our conversation," Tyler replied, his voice carrying dark promise. A nice, private conversation about respect. Damon spotted what looked like a main road ahead and gunned his engine, hoping to reach traffic or at least better lighting. But as he approached the intersection, his heart sank. Construction barriers blocked the road, orange cones and warning signs indicating major roadwork ahead. He was forced to turn right, deeper into the maze of warehouses and empty lots. The SUV followed relentlessly, and now Damon could hear Tyler shouting from the passenger window. "You can't run forever, champ! Might as well pull over and take it like a man." Damon's car hit a pothole hard, jarring his teeth and causing his gym bag to slide across the back seat. His phone tumbled out, but it was still too far to reach safely while driving at this speed. "There!" Danny pointed from the back seat of the SUV. "He's trapped." Ahead, Damon saw his worst fear realized. The road ended in a T-intersection with high chain-link fences on both sides, and the only way out was back the way he'd come, directly toward his pursuers. He slammed on the brakes, his car skidding to a stop just feet from the fence. In his rearview mirror, he watched the SUV pull up behind him, blocking his only escape route. "End of the line," Tyler said with satisfaction, as all 3 men climbed out of the vehicle. Damon sat in his car for a moment, weighing his options. He could try to ram past them, but that would likely result in a serious accident. He could stay in the car and hope someone would come by, but this area seemed completely deserted. Or he could get out and face whatever they had planned. "Get out of the car, Damon!" Tyler shouted, approaching the driver's side door. "Let's finish what you started with that disrespectful interview." Rick and Danny flanked the passenger's side, effectively surrounding the vehicle. Damon realized he had no choice. Staying in the car would just make him a sitting duck. He opened the door slowly and stepped out, keeping his hands visible. "Tyler, this is crazy. What do you think you're accomplishing here?" "What I'm accomplishing?" Tyler's voice cracked with rage. "You made me look like a fool in front of the entire world. Called me a racist. Said my hatred made me weak." "Because that's what it is," Damon replied, trying to keep his voice steady despite his racing heart. "And this proves it. You couldn't beat me in the ring, so now you're jumping me with your friends? This isn't about the ring anymore." Tyler stepped closer, his fists clenched. "This is about you learning your place. About understanding that one lucky night doesn't change anything." Danny shifted nervously behind Tyler. "Maybe we should just scare him a little and leave. This is getting out of hand." "Shut up, Danny," Tyler snapped without taking his eyes off Damon. "We came here to teach a lesson, and that's what we're going to do." Rick cracked his knuckles menacingly. 3-on-1 seems pretty fair considering how mouthy he's been. Damon backed against his car, calculating distances and angles. His MMA training had prepared him for one-on-one combat, but 3 attackers in an open space was a completely different scenario. "You know what the funny thing is?" Tyler continued, his voice taking on a mocking tone. "All those people cheering for you, calling you a hero, they're not here now, are they? It's just you and us, and we're about to show you what a real beating looks like." "If you think this intimidates me, you're wrong," Damon replied, squaring his shoulders. "I've been fighting my whole life. I'm not going to stop now." Tyler laughed, a harsh sound that echoed off the surrounding buildings. "Fighting? You call what you do fighting? You follow rules. You have referees to protect you. This is different. This is what happens in the real world when you disrespect the wrong people." The 3 men began closing in, forming a loose circle around Damon. There was nowhere left to run, nowhere to hide. The confrontation he'd hoped to avoid was about to begin. "Last chance, Tyler," Damon said quietly. "Walk away now, and we can forget this happened." "The only thing I'm forgetting is how to show mercy," Tyler replied, raising his fists. "Let's see how tough you really are." Tyler threw the first punch, a wild haymaker that Damon slipped easily. His MMA training kicked in immediately as he countered with a sharp jab that caught Tyler square in the nose, blood spurting instantly. "You want to do this the hard way?" Damon said, settling into his fighting stance. "Fine by me." Rick charged from the left, throwing a clumsy overhand right. Damon ducked under it and swept Rick's legs, sending the bigger man crashing to the asphalt with a grunt of pain. "This is insane," Danny shouted, but he moved forward anyway, loyalty to Tyler overriding his better judgment. Tyler wiped blood from his nose, his eyes wild with rage. "Hold him down! Both of you! Hold him down!" Danny grabbed for Damon's left arm while Tyler circled to the right. Damon twisted away from Danny's grip and landed an elbow to his ribs that doubled him over, gasping for air. "You thought this would be easy." Damon's breathing was controlled despite the chaos. 3-on-1, and you still can't handle me?" Rick had gotten back to his feet, more cautious now after being dropped so easily. "He's faster than I thought. We need to corner him." "I don't care how fast he is." Tyler's voice cracked with desperation. "He's just one man. We're 3. Tyler feinted left, then dove right, trying to tackle Damon around the waist. Damon sprawled backward, using Tyler's momentum against him, and drove his knee up into Tyler's solar plexus. Tyler crumpled to the ground, wheezing and clutching his stomach. Danny had recovered from the elbow and came at Damon from behind, wrapping his arms around Damon's torso in a bear hug. "Got him! Rick, help me!" Rick moved in to throw punches at Damon's exposed midsection, but Damon dropped his weight and threw his head back, catching Danny in the face with the back of his skull. Danny's grip loosened immediately as his nose broke with a sickening crack. "My nose! He broke my nose!" Danny staggered backward, blood pouring through his fingers. Damon spun around and caught Rick with a devastating right cross that sent him sprawling across the hood of his own SUV. The bigger man slumped to the ground, momentarily stunned. Tyler was back on his feet, his face a mask of humiliation and rage. "This isn't over! You hear me? This isn't over!" "Yes, it is," Damon replied, his voice steady despite breathing hard from the exertion. "You brought this on yourself." But Tyler pulled something from his jacket pocket, a metal tire iron he'd grabbed from the SUV. "Now we'll see how tough you are." "Tyler, don't!" Danny pleaded, still holding his broken nose. "This has gone too far." "It goes as far as I say it goes." Tyler swung the tire iron in a vicious arc toward Damon's head. Damon barely ducked in time, the metal weapon whistling past his ear. He grabbed Tyler's wrist with both hands, controlling the weapon while driving his shoulder into Tyler's chest. "Drop it!" Damon commanded, applying pressure to Tyler's wrist. "Never!" Tyler struggled against Damon's grip, but his leverage was poor and his strength was fading. Damon twisted Tyler's wrist sharply, and the tire iron clattered to the asphalt. Without hesitation, he swept Tyler's legs and drove him face first into the chain-link fence. Tyler's body went limp as he slumped to the ground, unconscious. Rick was trying to get back to his feet, but Damon's punch had left him dazed and unsteady. "I'm done, man. I'm done. Don't hit me again." Danny was leaning against the SUV, blood still streaming from his nose. "We should never have come here. This was stupid." "Tyler's crazy." Damon looked at the three men. Tyler unconscious against the fence, Rick barely standing, and Danny bleeding and defeated. The adrenaline was beginning to fade, replaced by the reality of what had just happened. "You attacked me," Damon said, pulling out his phone which had fallen during the fight. 3 against 1, with weapons. That's aggravated assault. "Please don't call the cops," Danny begged. "Tyler made us do it. We didn't want to hurt you." "You should have thought about that before you followed me here." Damon dialed 911, keeping his eyes on Rick and Danny. "This ends now." As the phone rang, Tyler began to stir against the fence, groaning as consciousness returned. When he saw Damon standing over him with the phone, his face contorted with fresh rage. "You think calling the police protects you?" Tyler's voice was slurred, but venomous. "You think this ends here? I'll make your life hell. I'll destroy everything you care about." "Hello, 911? I need police at the corner of Industrial Boulevard and 5th Street. I was attacked by 3 men." "Yes, I'll stay on the line." Tyler's threats continued, even as sirens began wailing in the distance. But for the first time since this nightmare began, Damon felt like justice might finally be within reach. The police arrived within minutes, their flashing red and blue lights cutting through the darkness of the industrial district. Detective Rodriguez stepped out of the lead car, surveying the scene with the practiced eye of someone who'd seen plenty of street fights gone wrong. "I'm Detective Rodriguez. Who called this in?" Damon raised his hand, still breathing heavily from the confrontation. "That was me, Damon Carter. These 3 men followed me from my gym and attacked me." Rodriguez looked at Tyler, who was now sitting against the fence with blood on his face, then at Rick and Danny, both showing obvious signs of having been in a fight. "And you are?" "Tyler Brooks," Tyler muttered, not making eye contact with the detective. "The MMA fighters," Rodriguez nodded with recognition. "I saw your fight on Saturday." Heard about the post-fight incident, too. He pulled out his notebook. Mr. Carter, tell me what happened here. As Damon recounted the events, the chase, being cornered, the 3-on-1 attack, and Tyler's use of the tire iron, Rodriguez took detailed notes. Tyler remained silent, but his jaw tightened with each detail. Mr. Brooks, you want to give me your version of events? Tyler looked up with defiant eyes. We just wanted to talk to him. He attacked us. With what, exactly? Rodriguez gestured to Danny's broken nose and Rick's swollen face. Because, from where I'm standing, it looks like Mr. Carter defended himself against multiple attackers. Rick shifted uncomfortably. It wasn't supposed to go this far. Tyler said we were just going to talk. Shut up, Rick, Tyler snapped. No, Tyler, I'm done shutting up. Rick's voice rose with frustration. You said we were going to have a conversation, not jump the guy in a dark alley. Look at Danny's face. Look at what happened to us. Detective Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. So this was premeditated? You planned to confront Mr. Carter? Danny wiped blood from his nose, his loyalty to Tyler finally cracking. We followed him from his gym. Tyler had been talking about it for days, about teaching him a lesson. Danny, I swear! Tyler started to threaten. You swear what? Rodriguez interrupted sharply. You'll assault him too? Because that's what we're talking about here. Assault with a deadly weapon, conspiracy, stalking. You're looking at serious charges, Mr. Brooks. Tyler's face went pale as the reality of his situation began to sink in. This is ridiculous. He's the one who started all this with his disrespectful comments after our fight. Comments? Rodriguez looked incredulous. You're telling me you orchestrated an assault because of something someone said in an interview? He called me a racist on national television. He made me look like a fool. And now you've made yourself look like a criminal, Rodriguez replied coldly. Rick Williams and Danny Stevens, you're both under arrest for assault and conspiracy. As two officers moved to handcuff Rick and Danny, Tyler realized his accomplices were about to abandon him completely. Wait, you can't arrest them. They were just helping me. Helping you commit a felony, Rodriguez clarified. Tyler Brooks, you're under arrest for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, stalking, and conspiracy to commit assault. As the handcuffs clicked around Tyler's wrists, his composure finally shattered. This isn't fair. He embarrassed me. He ruined my career. I had a right to defend myself. Defend yourself? Damon spoke for the first time since giving his statement. You followed me, cornered me, and attacked me with 2 other men. That's not defending yourself. That's being a coward. Tyler's face contorted with rage as he was led toward the police car. You think this is over? You think some jail time scares me? I'll be out soon, and when I am, I'll remember this. Keep talking, Rodriguez advised. You're just making the prosecutor's job easier. As Tyler was placed in the back of the patrol car, he pressed his face against the window, staring at Damon with undisguised hatred. This isn't finished. You hear me? This isn't finished. Detective Rodriguez handed Damon his business card. You'll need to come in tomorrow to sign your formal statement. We'll also need photos of any injuries you sustained. What happens now? Damon asked, looking at the bruises forming on his knuckles. Now Mr. Brooks learns that actions have consequences. With the weapon involved and the premeditation, he's looking at serious time. Plus, the Nevada Athletic Commission will likely ban him from professional fighting. Rodriguez closed his notebook. You did the right thing calling us. Guys like this, they don't usually stop until someone makes them stop. As the police cars drove away with Tyler and his accomplices, Damon stood alone in the empty lot, finally allowing himself to process what had happened. The immediate danger was over. But Tyler's final threats echoed in his mind. The weeks following the attack passed in a blur of legal meetings, medical checkups, and media interviews. Damon sat in his lawyer's office, reviewing the prosecution's case file one more time before the trial began. His attorney, Maria Santos, spread photographs across the mahogany table, images of his injuries, the tire iron, the crime scene. "The evidence is overwhelming," Santos said, adjusting her reading glasses. "Between the physical evidence, the witness testimony from Rick and Danny, and the clear premeditation, the prosecution has a strong case." Damon picked up one of the photos showing the bruises on his ribs. "It's not about winning or losing anymore. It's about making sure this doesn't happen to someone else. Tyler's lawyer will try to paint you as the aggressor, especially given your comments after the fight. Are you prepared for that?" "I've been preparing for this my whole life, even if I didn't know it." Damon set the photo down. "Every time someone told me I didn't belong somewhere, every time I had to prove myself twice as hard as everyone else, it all led to this moment." Meanwhile, across town in the Clark County Detention Center, Tyler sat in his cell staring at the concrete wall. His cellmate, a grizzled man named Torres, watched him with amusement. "You're that fighter, right? The one who got beat up by the black guy?" Torres asked, not bothering to hide his entertainment. Tyler's jaw tightened. "I didn't get beat up. It was 3 against 1, and he got lucky." "Lucky?" Torres laughed. "From what I heard, you and your boys got handled pretty easy. Maybe you ain't as tough as you thought." "When I get out of here, we'll see who's tough," Tyler muttered. "When you get out? Boy, you're looking at serious time. Aggravated assault with a weapon? Conspiracy? You might want to start thinking about what comes after, not what came before." But Tyler wasn't ready to accept reality. In his mind, he was still the victim, victimized by political correctness, by a system that favored people like Damon, by circumstances beyond his control. Back at home, Damon tried to return to some semblance of normalcy. He sat at the kitchen table with Sarah, both of them picking at their dinner. "The Nevada State Athletic Commission called today," Sarah said quietly. "They want to discuss your next fight. I'm not sure I'm ready to think about that yet." "Because of the trial?" Damon pushed food around his plate. "Because of everything. The fight with Tyler. What happened afterward. This whole legal process. It's changed something in me, and I'm not sure what yet." Sarah reached across the table to take his hand. "You know what I think changed? You stopped fighting just for yourself. Now you're fighting for everyone who's ever been told they don't belong. That's a lot of pressure. It's also a lot of purpose. Before Tyler, you were just another good fighter trying to make it to the top. Now you're something more." Detective Rodriguez had been following the case closely, knowing that the outcome would send a message far beyond the individuals involved. He sat in his office, reviewing Tyler's file one more time before the trial. His partner, Detective Kim, looked over his shoulder. "This one getting to you? Cases like this always do. It's not just about the crime anymore. It's about everything that led up to it." Rodriguez closed the file. Brooks had every advantage: talent, opportunity, support. But his hatred poisoned all of it. And Carter? Carter's the kind of man this job reminds you to believe in. Someone who faced injustice and chose to fight it the right way. The media attention had been intense, with sports commentators and social analysts weighing in on everything from race relations in MMA to the responsibility of athletes as role models. But through it all, Damon had maintained his dignity and focus. Coach Riley watched his student during a light training session, noting how the events had changed him. The quiet confidence was still there, but it was deeper now, more purposeful. "You ready for tomorrow?" Riley asked as they finished up. "As ready as I can be. Whatever happens in that courtroom, I know I did the right thing. And after? When this is all over." Damon looked at himself in the gym mirror, seeing not just a fighter, but someone who had stood up to hatred and won. "After this, I get back to being who I've always been. But maybe now I understand what that really means. The trial would begin tomorrow, and with it, the final chapter in a story that had started with one man's prejudice and would end with justice served. For Damon, it represented more than just legal vindication. It was proof that standing up to bullies, no matter how powerful or intimidating, was always worth the fight. Climax extended. 6 weeks later, the Clark County Courthouse buzzed with activity as Tyler Brooks's trial reached its climax. The courtroom was packed with reporters, MMA fans, and curious observers who had followed the case from the beginning. Damon sat in the front row behind the prosecutor's table, Sarah beside him for support. Judge Margaret Thompson called the court to order as District Attorney Patricia Wells prepared to present her closing arguments. Tyler sat at the defense table, his expensive suit unable to mask the desperation in his eyes. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," Wells began, "over the past 3 days, you've heard testimony that reveals the true character of Tyler Brooks. This is not a case about competitive rivalry or hurt feelings. This is a case about a man who believed his hatred gave him the right to hunt down and assault another human being." She walked to the evidence table, picking up the tire iron that had been used in the attack. "This weapon tells the story of premeditation. Mr. Brooks didn't grab this in the heat of passion. He brought it with him, planning to use it against Damon Carter." Tyler's defense attorney, James Harrison, had tried everything to minimize his client's actions, but the evidence was overwhelming. During his cross-examination of Damon earlier that day, he'd made one last desperate attempt. "Mr. Carter, you've built a career on violence, haven't you? Fighting is literally how you make your living. I compete in a regulated sport, with rules, referees, and medical supervision." Damon had replied calmly. "What your client did was criminal assault. But you threw the first punch that night, didn't you? After being chased, cornered, and threatened by 3 men, one of whom was armed. That's called self-defense." Harrison had grown increasingly frustrated. "Isn't it true that you've profited from this incident? Book deals, interview appearances, increased fighting fees." Damon's response had been devastating. "The only thing I've profited from is learning that standing up to bullies and racists is always the right choice, regardless of the cost." Now, as Wells continued her closing argument, she addressed the jury directly. "Mr. Brooks wants you to believe this was about respect or competition. But listen to his own words from the witness stand yesterday." She read from the transcript. "He needed to learn his place. People like him get one lucky break and think they own the world." Wells looked up at the jury. What did he mean by people like him? What place was Mr. Carter supposed to learn? Tyler's testimony had been a disaster. When Wells had cross-examined him, his carefully constructed facade had crumbled completely. "Mr. Brooks, you testified that you wanted a man-to-man conversation with Mr. Carter. Is that why you brought 2 accomplices?" "I brought backup because I didn't know what to expect." "Backup? You brought backup to have a conversation?" Tyler's voice had risen defensively. "The guy had just embarrassed me on national television. He made me look weak." "Made you look weak? Or revealed what you actually are?" "I am not weak. I'm a professional fighter. I've worked my entire life to get to a point where you could assault someone who beat you fairly." That's when Tyler had exploded. "He didn't beat me fairly. The whole system is rigged. They wanted him to win because of what he represents. I was set up from the beginning." "Set up how, exactly?" "You know exactly how. The media, the fans, everyone was rooting for him because he's black. They didn't care about skill or talent. They just wanted their story." The courtroom had fallen silent at Tyler's outburst. His lawyer had tried to object, but the damage was done. "So this was about race, Mr. Brooks?" Tyler had tried to backtrack. No, that's not what I meant. You meant exactly what you said. You couldn't accept losing to a black man, could you? That's not true. Then explain your comments to Mr. Carter before the fight. The comments about diversity hires and street corners? Tyler's silence had been answer enough. Rick Williams had been the prosecution's star witness, his testimony painting a clear picture of Tyler's planning and intent. He said he was going to show Damon what a real beating looked like, Rick had testified. Said the octagon had rules and referees, but the street was different. He kept talking about putting him in his place. And what did you understand that to mean? At first, I thought he was just talking tough. But then he started following Damon around, learning his schedule, planning when to corner him. That's when I knew it was serious. Danny's testimony had been even more damaging. Tyler brought the tire iron from his garage. He showed it to us before we left, said we might need it if Damon didn't want to listen. I asked him what we were really doing, and he said we were going to teach someone a lesson about respect. Now, as Wells concluded her closing argument, she faced the jury with quiet intensity. Tyler Brooks had every advantage in life: talent, opportunity, support. But when faced with a man who had earned success through hard work and character, he chose hatred. When that hatred led to humiliation in the ring, he chose violence. She paused, letting her words sink in. This case isn't just about one night of violence. It's about whether we, as a society, will tolerate people who believe their prejudices justify criminal behavior. Tyler Brooks stalked Damon Carter. He cornered him with accomplices. He brought a weapon. He had every intention of seriously harming or killing a man whose only crime was being better than him. Harrison's closing argument was desperate and brief. My client made mistakes. He let his emotions get the better of him. But this was a moment of poor judgment, not the calculated assault the prosecution wants you to believe. The jury retired to deliberate at 3 p.m. They returned at 4:47 p.m. Has the jury reached a verdict? Judge Thompson asked. The foreman, a middle-aged construction worker, stood with the papers in his hand. We have, Your Honor. On the charge of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, how do you find? Guilty. On the charge of conspiracy to commit assault? Guilty. On the charge of stalking? Guilty. Tyler's legs gave out, and he collapsed into his chair as the verdict was read. His mother, sitting in the gallery, began crying quietly. Judge Thompson reviewed the sentencing guidelines before speaking. Mr. Brooks, you are sentenced to 5 years in Nevada State Prison, with possibility of parole after 3 years. Additionally, you are ordered to pay $250,000 in restitution to Mr. Carter for medical expenses and emotional distress. As the bailiff approached with handcuffs, Tyler looked across the courtroom at Damon one final time. But instead of the hatred that had driven him to this moment, there was only hollow defeat. This court is adjourned. Justice, at long last, had been served. 6 months after the trial, Damon stood in the center of a packed arena in Phoenix, his hand raised in victory after defending his newly won light heavyweight championship. The crowd's roar was deafening as he celebrated with Coach Riley and his team. But this victory felt different from all the others. How does it feel to be champion? The post-fight interviewer asked, holding the microphone toward Damon. It feels like everything I went through was worth it, Damon replied, still catching his breath. Not just the training and the fights, but everything. The hatred, the threats, the trial. It all led to this moment. You've become something of an inspiration to many people. What's your message to them? Damon looked directly into the camera. My message is simple. Never let anyone make you feel like you don't belong somewhere. Work hard, stay true to your values, and justice will prevail. It might take time, but it will prevail. Meanwhile, 2,000 miles away, Tyler sat in his prison cell at Northern Nevada Correctional Center, watching the fight on the small television mounted to the wall. His cellmate, Torres, glanced over at him with amusement. "That's your boy right there," Torres said, gesturing at the screen. "The one who put you in here." Tyler's jaw tightened as he watched Damon celebrate with the championship belt. He got lucky. One good night doesn't make you a champion. Looks pretty champion-like to me. Belt around his waist, crowd going crazy, living his dream. Torres chuckled. "While you're counting down 3 more years in here." Tyler turned away from the television, unable to watch anymore. The Nevada Athletic Commission had not only banned him from professional fighting, but had also launched an investigation into his past conduct that led to several other fighters coming forward with stories of his inappropriate behavior. His career was over, his reputation destroyed, his future uncertain. Back in Phoenix, Damon made his way through the crowd of well-wishers and reporters. Sarah waited for him near the exit, her face glowing with pride and relief. "I'm so proud of you," she said, embracing him as cameras flashed around them. "Not just for winning, but for everything you've stood for." "We did this together," Damon replied, holding her close. "You kept me grounded when everything was falling apart." Detective Rodriguez, who had flown in to watch the fight, approached them with a smile. "Congratulations, champ. Justice looks good on you." "Thank you for believing me from the beginning," Damon said, shaking the detective's hand. "For taking it seriously when others might not have. Cases like yours remind me why I do this job. Sometimes the good guys really do win." Coach Riley joined the group, his eyes moist with emotion. 40 years I've been training fighters, and I've never been prouder of anyone. You didn't just win a championship tonight, son. You proved that character matters more than anything else." As the celebration continued around them, Damon reflected on the journey that had brought him here. The racist comments, the violent attack, the trial, and now this. It all felt like part of a larger story about standing up to hatred and refusing to be intimidated. "What's next?" Sarah asked, as they finally made their way toward the exit. "Next, I defend this title and keep proving that hard work and respect for others is what really matters in this sport," Damon replied. "And maybe help some young fighters who are going through what I went through." In his cell, Tyler finally accepted what Torres and everyone else already knew. His choices had cost him everything. The hatred that had once felt like strength had revealed itself to be weakness. The prejudice he'd thought gave him power had ultimately destroyed him. The next morning, newspapers across the country carried the same headline: "From victim to victor, Damon Carter captures championship." The story detailed not just his fighting skills, but his courage in standing up to racist abuse and his dignity throughout the legal process that followed. Tyler would serve his full sentence, eventually being released to a world that had moved on without him. His name became a cautionary tale about the cost of hatred and the importance of accountability. But Damon's name became something else entirely. A symbol of perseverance, justice, and the truth that character ultimately determines destiny. In the end, the best man had won, both in the octagon and in life. I hope you enjoyed that story. Please like the video and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. In the meantime, I have handpicked 2 stories for you that I think you will enjoy. Have a great day.